everybody. Will here with this week's interview chair. This week's chair is seated by Mr. Ernesto Lara. Sit back and relax. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the interview chair. Today we have Mr. Ernesto Lara. How are you, Ernesto?
I'm doing well. How about you, Will? It's good to see you.
Great to see you. Haven't seen you for a while. Things are good?
Yes, everything's doing well.
Keeping busy, lots of shows. Yeah. All right, let's get into it. Tell me how you started in the sport of dogs and how old you were when you started.
I was about 13, 14, and it was by chance. I was given an Airedale that was getting out of a divorce of some people, and they happened to know an auntie of mine who then they placed him with her. But she had Samoyeds, and this Airedale was too much for the Samoyeds. Oh. So then she gave it to a cousin of mine that lived just a few block away from me. And as it happened, I was coming back from school, and then he was arriving from getting this dog. And I saw him, and I always had liked dogs, but I've said this many times, I was afraid of dogs. I only like my own pet, that we know, because one time, going back a little bit, being a kid, I was walking with a sandwich on the street. I was like 7. And then this dog wanted my sandwich. Of course, that was just a stray dog. We get some in Mexico City. And I didn't want to give it to him, of course. And then he was not happy about it. And then he tried to bite me. And so I just threw the sandwich around away. Ever since, I was afraid of the dogs because I was little, right? And I was walking by myself. And anyway, but I always liked them and admired them and read the books and so forth. As I said, we always had a dog in the house, which was fine. And but I didn't like any other dogs. I was afraid of them, put it that way. So, but anyway, I always admired these dogs, and this Airedale was there. My cousin had a couple of other dogs that he was going to bring this dog together with him. Anyway, so that was that. And when I got home, after a while, my mother came back from some grocery shopping or so. So she rang the bell because she had all these bags. And I went to help her, went out to the door. And when I tried to help her to pick up the bags to bring them in, I saw this dog that I just met with my brother, loose, with my cousin, loose in the street, about to get in a fight with another dog. And I said, well, that's my cousin's Pepe's dog. And I said, which one? I said, that one. I said, I just got him. And I said, I better go do something, right? And I remember the dog had this kind of fake leather collar on. And when I get him, he was like sparring with a Doberman and growling and everything. I didn't think twice, and I just grabbed him and brought him home. The dog didn't know me, and or anything. That's how I lost my fear for dogs, just like that. Anyway, so became my dog and so forth. Had no idea what to do with him, and by walking him in the street, 2 girls slightly younger than me, a couple of years younger than me, stopped me, and they were sisters. Now I learned that later. They asked me if this was an Airedale. By then, this dog looked like an old English sheepdog. And right. And so anyway, I said, yeah, I was surprised that somebody even knew what it was. And this dog, it's so funny. It happened to be a well-bred dog. From there was a kennel in Mexico that imported it from England, from the best kennel in the world, actually. Wow. And they were like breeding them and sell them and whatever. But so this dog came from there, and I have given the pedigree of the dog and all that. Anyway, so yes, and said, well, our parents breed them and whatever, they have them. I said, oh, well, I'm very interested because I need to breed these dogs. It's a bit crazy. So I said, well, come and meet. I'll tell my mom you're coming when you come. I said, well, I can go tomorrow. Fine. I did that. I got there, and there was these girls were Carlos de la Torre's older sisters. And that's how I actually met him. Of course, met
Wow.
his mother, who was my mentor. This is a chance of life, Who was ever going to think you're going to go there that way? And changed my life.
Yeah.
So I got to the house. I always like to say this because I can't believe how my life changed after that, just walking my dog. And I rang the bell and I'm looking to see who's coming. This is a place that I knew because it was just a few blocks away from my house. And then they had a fence and a patio, and they have a big bird cage that had sometimes all kinds of birds, from parakeets, from birds, whatever. And then they have you will find dogs, cats, anything there. They had always a different pet. So when I used to bike, when I was even younger with my cousin, we used to call it the zoo. We'll stop the bike for a while, have some refreshment or something. There was a big tree, big jacaranda tree in front. And then look at the animals. It was our visit there. So I knew where that was. And when I get there, that day was not a dog. There was a barrel right in front of the fence, like with some sawdust, I thought. And anyway, and when I'm waiting, something is moving inside the barrel. I'm like, take a little step back and looking what is coming out of that. Well, there was this little kid, with a Prince Valiant haircut with big eyes like that, 5 years old. And then he starts climbing the fence, and then he got right to my eye level. And then and he was this you will give him a candy, this kid. He looked so nice. And he just looked at me and said, "What the hell you want?" And so that was Carlos de la Torre. Anyway, and so I waited for my mom. Oh, well, she'll come. She went back, but he was doing the variables, playing with stuff. Anyway, and then she came out, and she became my first best friend and my mentor. And, right away, she looked at the dog and said, "Well, it's a nice dog, but it's all hairy and whatever." I said, "Well, yeah, I know, but I want to breed him." I said, "Nobody's going to breed to this dog looking like that. You need to strip him." I had no idea. And so anyway, she said, "You have to come back on Saturday, and then you're going to strip him down." And that was like a Wednesday, right, when I did that. So that's how it all started. But anyway, she was fantastic. Ever since that first meeting, she pulled out a breed dogs, and she was still telling me about all the different terriers and what they were and how different they were and so forth, how it was the king of the terriers. And it was just like a super seminar right at first hand. And I got hooked.
That's crazy. That's a great story.
Yeah, they took me to my first dog show, everything right there.
Well, let's keep going. Like your first dog show.
Yes. It was an international dog show. It used to be in you've been to Mexico City, I don't know. The park in the city is like 3 times bigger than Central Park. It's a huge park. They have a castle, an actual castle there and all that. So, but there they had a beautiful polo field that belonged to the army, I think. It's beautiful. And it's right there by the main boulevard and so forth. And so it was just like a carpet field. And that's where they used to have the international shows back then. And so I went there. And it was a treat, getting there and watching my first real dogs. I have to say that I remember somebody, I don't know who it was, from America came down with a pointer. And it was showing him in the group. And when he came back to the judge, and then the dog was baiting him. And just to see all the muscles and the dog like kind of trembling and ready, that was like, I'd never seen anything like this. And terriers, the group was won by Eddie Boyce that had a wire fox terrier. This is 79. Before that, like 77, I think it was. And yes, because the World Show came right after. 78 must have been. Anyway, she had this wire fox terrier, which I learned that her name was Leila von Adorno, and it went best in show. I never seen such a thing, and I was transfixed to see that dog. It didn't look real. And at the same time, it was so excellent. You know the feeling. And that was just, I didn't know such a thing existed. The dogs, the shows, and that kind of dog looked like that actually in real life. It was amazing.
So what happened next? You're intrigued now by dog shows, so
Yeah. Well, I got to train my dog. I was getting teach to prepare him and to show him. I went to show him.
so this dog was registered then.
Yes, as I said, it was well-bred dog. When they gave me this pedigree, and there was this commercial kennel in Mexico City. I don't know if it's still running in San Walvor. And they used to have, it was a family. It was the brothers, and the father was the one that but the brothers really run it. And they will import it like Weimaraner, Saint Bernards, Airedales, and from everywhere. And but they actually show them as well. I mean, they would sell them as pets and so forth, but also show dogs. And it was the main kennel really in whole Mexico. And they had some Airedales that they imported from England. This famous kennel was the Bengal kennel. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I would say 90% of the Airedales you see come from this kennel. And so anyway, this dog was one of them, sired by what an average dog they had. So I could show him. And so that's what I did. The first person I showed a dog to was Bob Forsyth, who came in judge with Cheney. I didn't know them. And to show in the same place there in Chapultepec. And so anyway, my dog went winner's dog. So that was good. And so
how old were you then?
I was like 16.
Okay.
15, 16. Yeah. And so anyway, so that's how it started. And it was just a hobby. They organized some seminars for people coming to teach about, stuff. I remember a German lady coming to teach us how to dog tails, and I do it like in your house kind of thing, because that's the way they used to do it back then. I mean, they would put us in jail now. But anyway, so all kinds of things. And there were some breeders that will come to shows that they will go out and talk to us and so forth. So that was very interesting. But they mainly was all the experiences with Tita. That was the name of Carlos's mother, which long talks and long practices with certain dogs. And they also have different breeds, not only Airedales. So there's where I saw my first Lakeland, my first Kerry, my first Smooth Fox Terrier, and so forth. And, learn about them. Carlos's father was a vet, Dr. De La Torre, and he taught me how to breed dogs, and so I would used to help, back then we didn't used to do any AIs. So it was just about breeding. I think you must have learned that. It was kind of like an art who was good at doing breedings and so forth.
Sure.
And then there were people that were masters. Like I thought that was very good because, as I was growing up and going to school and that, there was a vet that will also always call me when people wanted dogs bred, they couldn't. So I will do and do the breedings in charge. So I did that for quite a while. So I got pretty good experience. I thought I was maybe really, really good at it. And, we'll try to do breedings from Chihuahuas to Great Danes or Chow Chows or whatever. And so that was crazy. But it was good, a lot of learning. But anyway, when I came here, Peter and Beth were fantastic doing the
How
breeding.
did you get? I want to know how did you go from Mexico to America? What?
As I said, I progressed into showing, and I just like to do it as a hobby, and I never wanted to be a profession. But then when it came time that I wanted just to do that, and I didn't want to be a profession because I didn't want to be something that was an obligation. I love it to do it. So I didn't want to be, you must do it, which, I end up doing it like that. And it's fine. But anyway, after the big earthquake in Mexico, they called me and they had a dog show in Veracruz. And nobody wanted to travel right after the earthquake. It was like 3-4 days. It was a big earthquake. I don't really remember. That was 1985. And anyway, they say, you speak a little bit of English. We have a couple coming from England. Do you want to go and be their steward, in the ring? And I said, sure, I helped. By then I was, was low. We started going to dog shows more often. And so I went there, and there was a Al and Esme Trin. I don't know, you remember that they used to run Waukesha.
Yep.
And so wonderful people. And that was a fantastic experience. And of course, while they were judging, I will always find out more about the dogs. It was always my interest, all the dogs wanted to see what they were and that. And, internationals used to be, this was just a local show, but international show used to be split in 2 days a week, Saturday, Sunday, then a week, maybe some specialties, and then back for the last 2 days of the next weekend. And so in between the weekends, I will go and study all the dogs I met the first weekend and go back and see them and study them, after I read their standard. And then when I look at them in the flesh, back again with a little more knowledge. So that was interesting. Anyway, so I always had this thing about asking them about things and so forth. And they were very willing. Esme Trim was fantastic, to me at least.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I said, I need to learn more. I want to go on some vacation to try to learn from some handler. So I knew about, the handlers that they were famous in America through magazines. They kind of like drip through hands, the terrier types. We got to get to like look at them and find them and so forth. And so I said, what about Rich Sudian? Well, he's just retired. And, but if you want to go to Peter Green, because he has the best dogs and he's the best person to go with. He's excellent to the people that he learns from and so forth. And I said, well, he's very far from here. When you're a kid and you're in Mexico City, Pennsylvania is on the other side of the world. Yeah. And she said, well, I'll send him a letter, which she did. At that point, because I was older then, I was like just coming to 18. You needed to do a social military service in the country. And until then, you were given a passport or you could get a passport. And so I was about to do that. So I couldn't leave for that year. So even though she got in touch with Peter and so forth, I couldn't come. And so, whatever. And that kind of went away. And I just continued showing dogs and going to school. Then I was I was doing well. Had lots of wins in Mexico, and had twice top dog of the breeds and all breeds and so forth. And then I wanted to sort of go back, and but I was like, well, I'm happy in Mexico. I still miss it, kind of thing, right? I used to come to shows in Texas, and of course, I know Gabriel since we were 14, since they first went to dog shows. And then, so we know each other. We were friends then. And then he came to America before he liked terriers. And that I said to him, I have to say all these things because it's all doesn't happen just by one thing, right?
Right.
I hate to drop names, but you have to because that's the people you go with. I never forget those.
You're not dropping names. That's your family. That's good.
Right. And so anyway, he left Mexico to learn because this friend of his, client friend, had these terriers and he wanted him to learn. Gabriel came from Great Danes. His original breed was pointers. And anyway, so he really didn't like terriers. He used to make fun of me because I like those socks, shade-faced dogs. And anyway, but so I say always I'm his biggest fan because he found out here in America all he could do. He didn't know he was that talented, And so that I was very pleased to see how all that became, right?
Right.
I went to show in Texas from Mexico. And when I was there, I had already gone there sometimes, did the circuit in the summer. And I said, I never been to Montgomery. I'd like to go. This was now August July or August. And I said, I want to go. We'll try to meet you there. Yeah, we should do that. He had just gone independent by then. He was no longer working for Bill. Anyway, but as we were talking, Rick Sudian came over to us, who was judging there. I had met Rick a couple of years before in Mexico. He went to show us a couple of wires that he co-owned with this man that Gabriel used to show dogs for. And I competed against him. And so that was really nice. When he came to Mexico in 88, I'm sorry. And so he said that he was just on the phone with Peter, how they were very good friends, and that he needed an assistant. And but he didn't have the time to start with somebody from scratch. He needed somebody that had an idea of terriers and that showed dogs and so forth. So he could help him because this was August, and of course Montgomery County was coming a couple of months. And so he said, so I was thinking about you, if you would want to go there. And I thought to myself, I had no plans to leave. I was happy. I was a good handler in Mexico as far as I had dogs. I show all these dogs. I had done a lot of winning and so forth. I didn't need to. I mean, it was never my idea to leave my country or anything like that. But it was always my idea to learn more. And so I had gone top dog all breeds the year before, and I knew that being the country so small, it's very hard to repeat doing that. You will kind of go like dormant for a while and then maybe try it again to do well. So I said, well, if you wait a month, I'll talk to my clients and I may try to come for a year, right? And that will be that. And he said, oh, fantastic. So that was that.
How old were you, Ernesto?
I was 29.
Okay.
Yeah. And anyway, so this now is early 90s when this happened. And so that's how it was. I went back. When I left, I had the top working dog. I was showing a Mastiff, actually the dog from Pennsylvania, and a smooth fox terrier from this same man that he bred this man that Gabriel knew, Sergio Balcazar. Anyway, yeah. And so, yeah, well, you know, Sergio. Anyway, so I left, and here I am. I came to Philadelphia. The same time, it was the weekend of Westbury, right before that when I came. So it was the end of September. And I had come to Montgomery, actually, the year before with this client of mine. So anyway, yes, but I never would spend for the whole weekend. Anyway, so I went to the Philadelphia airport, wasn't sure how to go there. Then I saw this person working in the airport pushing crates that I recognized, from Gabriel. He had these green wooden crates that his father made. Anyway, and so I follow him, and I went down there, and I saw him. He was just arriving also from California at the same time. And so he dropped some things and watched the dogs and go for the rest of it. And the time he was traveling by himself. So I'm looking at where he goes and watching how it comes. This is funny because then I feel somebody feeling my arm like that from the back. And I knew it was in Philadelphia. I mean, coming from the city, you always weary of things like that, right? And so I looked back, and then that was Peter Green. And I think he saw me. I was so skinny then. I think he looked at that and said, this can't be it. This guy's not going to make it. So, anyway, so that was that. Yeah. He picked us up, and then so that was good. We had a quick dinner just close to there in Prussia, and then the rest is history.
Oh, we want to know that history. So what year was that when you started with Pete?
It was 94.
94, okay. And then tell me your first Montgomery with Peter then.
Well, imagine that. We were going to Westbury, and he had a couple of vans. And then back then, Beth was still on Long Island. So I just knew kind of half of the thing. I met Andrew, went into the kennel, working on that. And Andrew was always great to me. And I consider him a brother. Yeah. And we got along really well. We are very different, but we like the same kind of music, strangely enough. So I think he liked that. And we used to smoke a lot too, Yeah. And, Peter hated that. Did. So right, those days, right? So Peter hated that, but we all managed to do that. So anyway, it was Westbury. He had a lot of dogs. Then I met Beth when we got to Long Island and so forth. And, I always love going there because bring me great memories of that time. And, I was, so happy they had all those dogs there. And then it just, there was no end to learning. That's what actually kept me here. Peter was great to me. And as I was told, and that's exactly how it all was. It was a lot of work. Remember the amount of dogs he used to show every weekend. And it was a lot of work, very little rest. But he treated me like part of the family ever since I came. And that I will always be grateful. So it was just fantastic. It couldn't be in a better place. And that's why I stayed. As I said, I was just going to come for a year and so forth, and to want to learn more. And learn I did. But every year he will get another better dog and a better dog and a different dog. And that's what I like. I like the dogs. And so, so I came right after that he retired Willem. I got to see him win with Willem the year before in Montgomery. And then this year they were starting Andrew Airedale that you knew, Peter.
Yep. Yep.
And so being my breed, as you know, I had Airedale since I was in Mexico. I was so happy, to be able to help with the dog a little bit and learn with it and so forth. So that was great. And then when Peter was doing well and so forth, I was there since his first Destin show was that weekend on Long Island actually. So he won like 25, so I went with him through them all, and Andrew showed him. And then they started with Rocky, the Norwich from Canada, Lotus talking, and so all those things, as I said, So when Rocky was kind of like finishing, then we got Coco, or Peter got Blackdale, the Ringmaster Wire Dog. You can never stop. You just never stop. Yeah. Exactly, and so that's what fueled my interest, and so. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Did you stay with Pete until he retired? I can't remember.
Yes. I was his assistant for 12 years.
Wow,
I was a long time. I was his longest assistant, only second to Andrew, of course. Right. But yes, Bobby Powell worked for him for 11 years, and I just beat him for 1 year. Big deal. Anyway, but yes, it was a long time, and it was a great experience, obviously, being right there. The people I met, the dogs I saw, the dogs I was actually to touch and live with and learn all these different breeds, and all the operation. It was, I remember going up north or whenever you came down, seeing you and Dad, and, it was just, I was so glad, and I think you feel the same of the time we lived.
Oh, for
and
sure.
The people we saw, and but this was, really fantastic, and from every angle, because it was a lot of work, and it will go from like, say, having Peter coming back from Maryland with a 99 big bags, they also of sawdust, and then unload them. And then he will just go and like, you guys put him down. He wanted to unload them with you. And, he like them, like you like throw them out from the truck, like go home for them, to go all the way from there to like have dinner with most of the famous people in the dog world that, he knew. And those things you can never, change that.
Well, I can't imagine. You hear the stories about it, people coming to the Greenfield before Montgomery and getting ready and preparing dogs. That must have been it was unbelievable.
It was incredible. You had to look forward to it, and I think I would say that by the end of the 90s and to the 2000s, so it was, Peter retired in 2006. So, you will get for sure, Rich Sudian, and he sometimes stay like 10 days or longer. And so that was great. And he will come and have the couple of new dogs that he was going to show, one of the new assistants that he had at the time, and that they were not learning a lot and so forth. And then he will have all these things to do sculpting, and he will do that in the free time. And then as the week has coming close, Danny Kedrosko will come. Many times he stayed home. He will come home and then maybe go and check New York and then come back, or stayed, and then after the show he will go to New York, whatever. And so he always, I remember that because somebody posted a picture of him a few weeks ago, and he will come to the garden and then sit there, have a coffee, have a smoke, and then watch us, work and walk, go back and forth and that. And it was great. And at times, George Ward always stopped there and stay maybe a couple of nights there, and so forth with Ross. And imagine one year, the three of them had a wire special. And so George would like set up in the garage, And then Rick would kind of sometimes come to the kennel to work his dog. And then, of course, Peter too, or bring his crate down under a tree, whatever. So when can you say that you can see that? Like I'm working the kennel and I run quickly and then watch this wire. George were working with his dog right there. And then Rick and then Peter,
And unbelievable. I couldn't imagine,
And so that was great. One night we were going to dinner after the kennel, and then okay, let's go. Peter used to go to this little place in a little town near here. It's called Blue Ball, and it was used to be the firehouse, and now it was been a restaurant for a long time. So he always said it was the first place he was brought to have breakfast with when he worked for the Weimers in Pulford, which is only 15 miles, 10 miles away from here. So it's a nothing place really, but it's just a mom and pop's place. So there we were going to go with it was Andrew, myself, Carol had come, Rick and George, and so of course Rick had to Peter had to finish a border theater that he had to like get ready for the weekend. That it was just a class dog, and because they needed him to hurry up to go to dinner. They approach him, and then you have the three of them pull the hair of the one poor little dog. I mean,
class dog.
But I mean, these three hands are on the one dog.
Yeah.
Things like that might not mean anything. I will never forget. Yeah, but it was great. It was a great parade of people that they will come there before the show. It was very interesting. All kinds of people that come. Of course, we used to get a lot of people from Europe coming, like Ariel Donahue came a lot, and it was a fantastic person. He is a fantastic person to talk to. He's so intelligent and great dog, man. Great breeder, of course. And, I don't know where to start. As I said, it will be like just a name dropping thing, but that was a great experience.
How could you know? You're there. They're all there.
Yeah. No, it was fantastic. It was fantastic to see that. And the stories, and when Montgomery weekend, and it was all these dogs, and later we'll have dinner, and of course after dinner chats at Peter's house, and then we used to go and like just listen, and it was late at night. You had to get up early in the morning. You didn't care. All the things that you saw there, that you heard, great stories. It was just fantastic. Also, I learned so much from Peter in dogs, but also his life going to shows, because driving, and he will always insist to drive. And so, to keep him awake. So great talks about everything. And a lot of good stories. Some you can tell, some you cannot tell. Yes, but great. Yeah, just fantastic. What I miss more of not having Peter at the shows all the time was, and I always say this, when we worked with him, he had so many dogs. You have to get ready the first bunch that was going to be shown the first hour or so. And then he will go out to the ring with these dogs, and I will usually stay back and groom more dogs to get ready. But sometimes he will come after that first segment of dogs and he say, yeah, come with me and come now. And then, somebody take care of that. And so come. And then he always fast walk. I don't know if you remember that, like almost like half running. And then you're going with him. And then, what is it? They say, oh, it's this dog I want you to see. And then, oh, what is it? He says, well, it's a Basenji. Oh, we're going to get a Basenji. No. You just want you to see it. I said, and I couldn't not get it. And then, okay, there was this Basenji with somebody. And then he's like, look at this. And then it was a beautiful dog, right? And he said, look at these ears, look at that. He has this, it's a beautiful size, and he has this and so forth. And I said, I just want you to see it. I don't care if this dog wins or anything, but you just don't see this anymore, And that was just an example. That happened a lot. And it was just, I used to say sometimes when there was a bad judge, people would complain, oh, well, can you believe he did that? I said, well, he has no reason to know, because they've never seen a good dog,
right?
And so, and that was, I think, the thing with him, how famous he was for importing dogs. And a lot of people thought that he only did territory, brought a lot of dogs that did well from different breeds.
Sure.
And so he had that. That's, I think, was his, how, I don't know if now the emphasis of somebody saying which is the best handler, it's maybe not the one that makes all these movements and whatever is sold out in the ring, as the one that could actually find you the right dog, for a client that wants to breed or just win and so forth. Who will you give your money? That's kind of like the thing. It's going to find you a good dog. And he was a man for that. Yeah,
he's amazing. One of my all-time favorites. I remember one time he saw me at a show and he asked me about a dog in Canada, what I thought of it, because it was actually a black and tan coonhound he had heard of, and he wanted to know my opinion, which I thought was great to begin with. But then Lang was at the show, and Lang had seen the dog too. So we were, all three of us were talking about this coonhound that Pete wanted to know about. It was great.
Yeah. He had a great eye for the dogs and great interest, natural interest for them. He once told me that he was not a good teacher because he didn't know how to teach from here to there or such, because he saw the dog as one piece. And that was how he saw, how he trained. We all hear about this, you trim terriers as well. Like, you do the flower and you do this and do that. He never really staged his dogs that way. He would work them. Of course, he will do the flower in a certain way and so forth. But it was just to see the dog as a piece, as a one thing. And it's funny. It's funny how he will tell you about what the kind of coat they have to have, what the length, how they actually look should be. But it wouldn't be so much as far as, from here to there and that. He used to call it trimming by numbers, that they all look like cookie colors. And then he will always like to trim a dog according to the dog, as if the dog was born that way. And that was how I learned from him, really.
That makes a lot of sense. It really does. I interviewed, I can't remember who, but it was a poodle person, and we were talking about trims, and he said his analogy was a woman's dress. He said, well, not the same black dress doesn't fit the same woman the same way all the time.
Exactly.
It makes perfect sense, right?
Exactly. That's exactly how he was. And for instance, I got a great chance to see that when he trimmed these Norwiches. He had a great variety of dogs, great quality. We don't see that anymore, really. And how he'll trim them all, like Rocky was. And I was, when Mrs. Reed died, that person that owned Willem, Glorvina Schwartz got him, right? And so sometimes, at least once or twice, I got to trim him when he was already a pet and retired, but I trimmed him. And just to go over that dog and feel him and know him and all that, once you see that kind of dog, all the other dogs kind of have to measure up to him. Right. And then how he will then look a picture how Peter trimmed him, and then how when Rocky came, who it was related, was half brother of him, how it was a different kind of dog, how she trimmed them, and how they were all different, and that was great to learn. It was always trying to get them to come close to type as much as possible. And so that was great. So those are the things I learned from Pete.
Can't imagine it was an education, that's for sure. So after Pete retired, you went on your own.
Yes.
And tell me about that, how that was.
Well, it was great. And people used to say, well, those are big shoes to fill. And I said, nobody is filling those shoes.
That's right.
It will be a big mistake trying to measure up to that. It's not the same era, not the same person. I mean, that's one of a kind. I mean, that's what it was. And, when I see now how people talk about who was better, who was this and that, just to see the way he was regarded and the people that admire him. And they were all the same people that say, well, could have been the best one. So, that's the buck stops there, with those people on the same level. So, yeah, I just wanted to do as well as I could. And I saw how the sport changed a lot. I remember that saying to us, I don't know how kind of dogs we're going to have in 10, 15 years. And I thought that she was just being kind of like, doom kind of thinking. But she was right. I mean, it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
You don't see any handlers having the same string of dogs as they used to. And like I had them, I show a lot of dogs the first couple of years, 5 years that I was on my own. So that's mid 2000s on. But by 2012, 2010, things weren't as great as it was before that. And, people change and the kennels closed. Now they're all kitchen breeders. Now handlers breed the dogs to have some, and it's just a different thing. Nobody cares in the championship. They won grand championship. They won group placements and besting shows. And so it's not about winning the national, and certain things have changed in that way. And also, it's incredible to see the big line of people that have passed away. And because now we have the internet, and then when you and I were growing up, it was just about television, and before that, there was radio. So I think those things changed because people had not much to do, so it was just to do the dogs. Now it's hard to to get away from the screen
anymore.
Yeah. And so it's a total different thing. And I don't know where we're going to go, with all these restrictions on breeding that's happening in the world. And then now of ownership in some parts of the country that you can have certain breeds. And, the dog, the tail docking, the ear cropping and all that. So it's a different atmosphere, totally. So
I miss Ernesto.
Try to ride it. Mm-hmm.
You know what I miss though? I miss when you handle a dog and the dog goes best in show, and you go to call the client, and you're all excited, and they already know because
yes, they saw it.
They already know. That was my favorite. I was so excited to tell them, and now it's like, you miss it.
Right. It's true. They even saw it. They know before you do it, and it's all changed. So it is funny. It is funny how the reality is quite like you will never believe it, right? And that's you just try to do it, and still it's always down to the dogs, really.
Yeah.
But so that was that. But I've been very, very lucky. I mean, I've done really, really well. I had great experiences. What I like a lot, and I felt that in Montgomery, there were 5 people that had worked for me, that apprentice under me, there showing and doing well and being good, and that's a lot of pride. Really.
Yeah, it's like a pedigree, isn't it? It's like you see, and you're part of that pedigree now. So.
Yeah, and this it makes me really proud to see that, and it's really good, really good. So that's a job well done, I think. So I like that feeling. They have great work ethics, and they're talented, and they're very good. So that means a lot. That means a lot.
Tell me about winning Best in Show at Westminster.
Well, that's a dream that no one dares to dream. I remember you had it, and I don't know. You remember when you won it? You said you just takes will. When you won, and it's true. It's true. You just have to want to do it. And, it's just like throwing dice. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you may have everything in place, but you just want the one card. And same thing going back to Peter. The many stories of times that he could have won the guard and something happened, and that's it. You have to ride the game in the right time, the right moment. And then maybe there was one dog there at the dog show that could have beaten your dog, but it had to win as well. to be there, right? So that's what you want. And you know how many times that could happen. And when after I won it, both four said, congratulated me. And I said, you know how much this means because you were the first person I showed a dog to. You didn't remember, of course. And you know, that was, I said, but you know, I kind of feel about all these great people with great stories and trajectories, you know, like they have great careers and great dogs, and they never won it. And that's like, I don't know if, you know, kind of overstepping into them. And say, well, they just have to feel sorry for themselves, you know, this just happens, and you got it. That was great. I never, as I said, never dared to think. And the last, that was going to be this dog's last show. I remember when I was going for the city here at home, I took a picture, selfie with him, and I said, like, this is the time I got out. He's in home. He's leaving, right? So, because we had him for 3 years. But no, he actually, since he won, he left till middle of May that year. But the judge that was doing the breed has never judged him. And that was Debbie Campbell, that she really never judged toys, really. You know, you wouldn't see her, you'll see the sporting dogs and so forth back then. So I had no idea if she was going to like him or not. And so that was that. And then the group judge was Dennis McCoy. And same thing, he had done for him, but, you know, we were competing against the beautiful miniature pincher of Armando. And that was fantastic dog. And of course, that toy group was great. You know, of course, David had another Pekingese, and there was a beautiful pug, and, you know, there was great Shih Tzu and a Pom, and just keep going. I remember when Dennis McCoy made the cut, they said, you know, the Pom, the Pup, the Peak, all those pieces out there. And so anyway, that was great. I remember that dog show, I went to the ring with Nana Joe thinking this is the last time I'm going to show him. So just do like I'm going for everything. That's my attitude. That was my attitude there. And so that was great. So the night I went to the group, I just going to, you know, show him as good as I can, not thinking I'm going to win this group or let them along the show. Getting into Best in Show was incredible. I had, when we were going to Orlando the year before, we had a little accident because the first day of the group, they didn't exercise the dog. And so, you know, it had a little mistake there in the group. So that cost us the group, I think. In the Diamondback, the top of the Diamondback, we had some mistakes. So that's terrible. So, you know, I went ballistic. And then I said, at Westminster, said, this dog. And then on the day of the Best in Show, he hadn't gone to the bathroom. So the toy group was the day before, and then the Best in Show was the second day. So I have to do the terrier. So I was going to be in the group before Best in Show. So meaning I wasn't going to finish my dog grooming him. Carlos was doing it, which he always did. And then he tells me when we moved, it was the first year that we're not in the garden, all the shows, we were in the pier. So we got into the show, and I said, okay, I'm going to take a shower, I'm going to change, they get ready for the Scotty, and then you work with Joe. Sure. He says, he has to poop. I don't care, you know. And of course, he wasn't the dog that you will like match, you know. You could, because then you would like may lose him. And so anyway, he did that, and so that was good. So that was kind of like, this is ridiculous how you come to that, and that's the first thing you think about, right? Because you had it anyway. And then, you know, I'm going to be tense, the dog is going to feel it. You have to cover every little thing. So of course he did it. That was fine. I got a haircut the day of the group there. I remember we're on the benches, and we just got from the show. This is the day before. And then I said, you need to give me a haircut. I mean, I look like a bear. And anyway, so we sat there, and the people in the next bench said, are you going to have a haircut and went to the group like that? And I said, yes. So then they thought I was going to go with all scared of that. You know, all these stupid things that happened there before. But anyway, going up to the ring, and the person that trained me how to show a dog was Carlos's mother. And it was in the little street they lived. You know, it was very quiet. And then they had a little, right in front, they had a round drainage for the street, right? And then so that's the circle you're going to start going around. You keep the distance from the dog, and then we're going to go from there. And that's what it was. You do that, you go, you use the same leg to start, and then you go stop, a bit of like obedience and that, but also, towards showing the dog. And then you do these and all those steps, right? And I remember learning that when I first had my first dog, and she was teaching me how to show him. And that was one thing that I thought when I was going in the ring, this is just like that. And I thought it was uncanny that memory came to me right before you were going to the ring. And another thing that happened was the winter before, we were going to go to Crops. And so with him, and I said to Carlos, you have to train him, because if we're lucky and we go win the group, for instance, then they're going to turn the lights off, and then all these headlights come to spotlights to follow, and then he needs to learn that. All right, so you know how it gets dark early, and then we will do that. You get a lamp and then make all these noises and throw things and clap and yell, and the little dog will go around in the dark with just a little flashlight on him. Of course, we weren't that lucky. We did win the breed, but we didn't do anything in the group. He was too pretty for the British, I think, and so. But he learned that. And then that was one thing that sort of we never thought about. And yeah, of course, we assembled to go in, 7 winners, everybody's nervous. And then he's ready. I'm happy he's ready. I know he's exercised, so that's good. And then the lights come down. Now they make you interesting show from outside, from the, from away the arena, and then you walk in. Well, now it's different in up in Tarrytown. But then at the garden, then you were there already, just inside. And so when the lights came down, you can almost hear the knees of everybody kind of going like, what the hell? But then I remember he knew, and he did. So that was just the best thing. You know how it is to walk into that ring and then don't see anything with the spotlight. You only have to follow the light. And I am very cumbersome, really. And the only physical thing I can do is sort of trim a dog. Everything else I'm terrible. And so I trip, and I'm really not very manual. And so good thing he leave me, really. And so that was just fantastic. I could never forget that, as you will know that. Yeah. It's a moment in time, really.
Sure. It's very exciting. I can still see you holding him up. So.
Yes, because I thank him when they said they often pinch. I said, "Well, thank you, you brought me here, right?" But he was the winner. He was victorious, and after he did this individual, he was the last dog in line. And what I remember, like saying to him, "You did this well enough to win it," not thinking we're going to win it, but like the way he showed, the way he walked. He could have gone around the ring again twice, and he was ready that night. That's a big testimony. Then again, for Carlos, this dog we had 3 years, competed hard at 3 years. So it was 160 shows a year. How many we used to have, right? And so he did that for 3 years in a row, and then we stopped him in December, and he never went anywhere till the day it was Mister. And he showed like he was a brand new toy that you get at Christmas, and you open the cage and, hey, get him to work. And he was fresh and he was happy. That was a big testament to Carlos' work on him. And it was incredible.
Yeah. Sure was.
We praised him I never stacked him. The only time I touched the dog was when I put him on the table. That's it. So he did it. I just was walking behind him. That was great.
It's a great team, that's for sure, man. I have another question for you. What advice would you give a young person if they came to you and said, "I want to be a professional handler"?
Well, first of all, ask them if they're okay, if their mind is right, because who wants to do that? But it's crazy. Just to think put the dogs first, always. I think that's it, and learn as much as you can. That's the main thing, and because you really don't belong to yourself anymore. and you owe yourself to the dogs, and that's hard to keep. I mean, it's very hard to keep always the level that you can, say that. And but that's at least try to do that. But yeah, first of all, the dogs can learn, and that's that. It's a lot of work. It's not just having a lead and a tag box in a van. It's way more than that. And so it's just when I go to the dog shows and I go and shake hands with people like I admire, right? I never think that I'm at the rank because I always want to be really better. Because I always tell myself it's always about what the dog is, and I'm only as good as my dogs are. That's it. You can maybe help them a bit or some, but if you don't have a real good dog, you can do it. So I think that would be one thing, and then we should be willing to work hard and learn again and learn again till they need to learn more. Never stops. I don't think we ever stop learning. I really don't think so.
Yeah.
So, I dab at judging. I'm licensed to judge in Mexico. I can do all breeds. So every time I happen to get to do that, you always question how much you know.
Yeah.
And it's true. You never know it all. But sometimes we're very hard to people that judge because we expect them to be perfect all the time. And, it's not just like going into the ring, not always the dog show well, or you might step or something. But yeah, basically that's what it is. Just be willing to work hard, learn all the time, and then just put the dogs first.
Good advice. One more question, and I'll let you get back to work. If you were to meet the 20-year-old Ernesto now, is there anything you'd tell him?
Wow, that's a very hard question because I'm in a very different situation that I was there. I don't know if I could tell myself then what I feel or think or live now, because, I was back in Mexico and I was still not sure that I was just going to do this for a full time. But I would think that I would just say, just follow your dreams. Because that's how it's been to me. Going back to our talk, I didn't know I was going to find this cousin getting this Airedale. I had no idea, or that the dog was going to escape and I was going to rescue him. Then I would lose my fear for dogs.
It's amazing the timing, what timing means to everything, to all of us.
Yeah, and so how many times, and then, yourself, preparing a dog. Oh, this is a beautiful dog, and you have a great setter, or you have a great beagle, or you have whatever great dog, and then you had a lot of beautiful dogs, and then also because all the talent that you have, show all these different breeds and trim them and prepare them. That's also another thing that you will say when you say somebody about wanting to show dogs. Know your limits as far as where are you good to do. Maybe we can get to show and breed and trim all these different breeds, but you know exactly which ones are the ones that you feel comfortable doing. And that's just how it is. But anyway, as I said, all these things happened that I took the chance. And I'm not necessarily somebody that wants to, that my life hasn't been like, oh, I want to this challenge and this adventure. And now I've always been sort of quiet that way. And, but it happened. When I asked the trains, I was like, maybe, it was 18 and I wanted to learn and do stuff. It didn't happen for me. So then it was 10 years later that I had that meeting in Texas with Rick came when I was arranging with Gabriel to go to Montgomery, and that he said that. And so, Rick came to Mexico to show dogs the years before. And by the way, I remember it was meeting Elvis. When I was there, you told me, Rick is coming next weekend. I was the first person at the dog show. I could not believe that he was just going to step in the grounds of the Kennel Club in Mexico, right? So that was just a fantastic meeting. Yeah. And anyway, but so I don't know, but I think that'll be it, because every time that there was a chance when he came and say, hey, you want to go? I had no intentions or need to leave my country. I was fine. And, it was kind of like 10 years ago, I was trying. And I said, yes, I'll do it. And then again,
Yeah.
I guess just that, follow your dreams.
That's a great one. It is. It is amazing. It's amazing for so many of us how things happen. It's just dogs have done so much for us. But yeah. Well, thanks, buddy. It was good. It's good to catch up with you. It was a great talk. So
thank you. I had a great time. Thanks. Thank you very much. Means a lot that you reach out.
No, it's good to see you. And I guess I'll see you down the road somewhere. Give my best to Carlos and Pete and Beth and whenever you
everybody.
See them.
Very well. Cheers, Will. Take care.
You. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ernesto. That was a great interview. It was great to catch up with you. I knew it'd be a great interview. If you like what you're seeing here, make sure you press the like, share, and subscribe button. And don't forget, if you want to find out what's happening in Will's world, go to willalexander.net. Or if you have any questions, go to dogshowtips@gmail.com. Until next time.